to my channel. One thing I failed to mention is that before I actually went on the streets, I actually called some of my other relatives. I remember one of them that answered, and when he answered, I told him that I was on the street, how I was thrown out, and he said, okay, he was going to call me back, which he never did. But at the same time, I also remembered that there is a neighbor that was actually my neighbor or our neighbor that was down on our street in Lagos where we lived at. So I remembered that particular neighbor, and I said I was going to go over to their place because, by the way, this happened at night. So she threw me out on the street at night. So I went to the neighbor's place, and then when I went to the neighbor's place, he opened the door, he welcomed me, he asked me what happened, and I told him everything. And he said, okay, maybe what he's going to do is that he's going to talk to her. And he offered me something to eat. This neighbor, may the Lord continue to bless him because he was very helpful to me that night. So I slept over on his couch. So he actually stayed with his big brother in that house, in that apartment. So I slept over at their couch, and then by the next morning, or even before the next morning, he had gotten a call. And what my relative did was that my relative called the guy's big brother, the senior brother. So when he called the guy's brother, he told the guy, I don't know what he told the guy. Whatever he told the guy, by the next morning, the one that allowed me to the house, that was very nice to me, that gave me food and everything and offered me the couch, said that I had to leave. And he told me that, your relative had called my brother, spoke with my brother. Now my brother wants you to leave this morning. So here am I again on the streets. And I remember walking the whole of the street that day, and eventually it was coming to another night. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think of. I couldn't even call my husband in Nigeria to let him know what was going on with me. At that point, I just wanted to find a place that is safe to stay. And one thing I do remember that my relative told me was that because apparently I had mentioned something which I can't remember exactly. I had mentioned something about God Almighty and something like that. And I remember her telling me, just before she threw me out, right in the presence of our family friend, I remember her telling me, where is your God? Let him come and help you now. Now, by the time you see yourself outside on the street, I will see how your God would help you. So I looked at her, and I didn't know what to think about that, because I was like, wow, this lady just challenged God. Okay, let's see. So while on the streets, again, at this point, I didn't have any other place to go. I couldn't even go to my relative, to my family friend that I had spoken to, that I explained to, that gave me money for food, and that came and confronted that my relative. I couldn't even go to her place because the only place I knew was her office. So I even remember that before she left that night, I had jumped on top of her car with my big stomach, my pregnancy stomach. I had jumped in front of her car, and I told her, you will not leave this place because I told you not to talk to this lady, and you did, and now she has thrown me out. Where do you want me to go? So I was begging and pleading, and I asked her, please let me go with you. which of course she didn't take me with her. So fast forward back to now being on the streets. Now I called the one relative that I could have access to, and he said he would call me back, which he never did. I thought I was going to stay at the neighbor's house, which is also a neighbor in Nigeria, in Lagos, our neighbor where we grew up with, that we stayed in for many years. And he said, well, my relative had called the brother, and the brother now wants me out. So I had tried whatever I knew. The next thing was to go on the streets. So this was where I now tapped on the neighbor. I now tapped on the lady that was on the street, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to approach. Of course, I was more comfortable approaching a fellow woman like myself. And so I tapped this young lady, and I had that courage. I tapped her and I told her, I'm homeless, I'm pregnant, please, can you help me? And then she looked at me and told me, well, I'm homeless too. And I was like, at that point, I didn't know what to do. So she said, I'm homeless too, but I can take you to where I live. So she took me right to Salvation Army. Salvation Army is a place that is owned by, I believe, Red Cross. And, you know, she took me there. She said, this is where I sleep. So it happened to be a homeless shelter. So when I got there, the person that I spoke to said, okay, they gave me a warm blanket, warm towels, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, and told me that I could stay overnight. But after that night, I would need to find a way to pay for I have to get a voucher that will pay for my nights in the Salvation Army. So I was like, okay, I didn't think anything of it. And if you remember, that lady that I tapped was very helpful. So she told me, don't worry, that she would take me to the place the next day. Everything happened to be very close to where I stayed. Actually, this happened in the state of New Jersey. So in the area that I stayed had a lot of amenities, and I didn't even have to take a bus. So everything was like a walking distance to where everything had to be. So I now slept, took a bath that night, slept. They gave me food also, slept, and then I woke up. And then the next morning I slept and I woke up, and then that young lady took me to the welfare office. So when I got to the welfare office, I was sitting down for a long time. Eventually, it was my turn to be called into the window. So when I got there, I was unfortunate to meet a Nigerian woman. God bless this Nigerian woman, because she helped me out. So I told her my story, and she said, what? I can't believe this happened to you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened to you. So she really was motivated to help me. And so she started looking for shelters, transitional shelters and transitional homes for me. And eventually she found one, which it wasn't so easy, because a lot of the amenities that she tried to set me up with, I wasn't eligible, because I was a permanent resident, but because I wasn't a citizen, it was the baby that was considered a citizen. I wasn't eligible for a lot of those resources. So eventually she got me a wonderful, wonderful place to stay. And this place is called Raphael Life House. Raphael Life House was like the best thing that ever happened to me at that point, because I went from being homeless to having a beautiful room to myself and for my baby. I had a lot of beautiful baby things, more than I needed. I had a lot of things that was also given to me, maternity clothes, everything. I got a job while I was in the home, because the home is a transitional home for pregnant young women that are facing homelessness or that are homeless. So getting into Lafayette House was, what I needed. So I had someone taking care of my baby for me. I would pay one of the girls in the house. They will watch my baby while I go to work. So I did this till I was ready to go back to Nigeria, because at that point I wanted to be able to go back to Nigeria and have my husband meet my baby, or our baby. So that was what happened. So this is how I ended up from being homeless on the streets and ending up being in a very comfortable position and a very comfortable condition where I got everything I needed, or more than everything I needed, for myself and my baby. So if you find yourself in any situation at all, never give up. When I say this in my video, I am not sugarcoating it. I am not making up stories. I have lived through it. I know that there is no situation that is hopeless. So hang in there. Continue to be strong, because there will be a way out, and you will never be left alone in the dark. So have faith, have hope, because everything is going to be okay. Thank you again for watching my video, and I appreciate you being here. Please, if you like my stories, if you like my videos, if you like the kind of content that I create here, please don't forget to like by pushing the thumbs up button. Please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to comment, and most of all, share my videos. Share my videos, because I want you to bless people that really need it. Thank you again, and bye for now. Until I may burn